What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video, a New York Giants interview. And today I've got one of my favorite guys on the platform. I was actually on DouglieDoWrong's channel. I think he's got a great channel. I forgive him. He's from Jersey, and he's a Dolphins fan. But at least we share the same baseball team. We're miserable there with the Mets. But real quick, let my listeners know why you became a Dolphins fan living in Jersey.
Had to do with my dad. My dad, huge Dolphins fan, born 65. So he started watching around 72, 73. And he's just been a diehard Dolphins fan his whole life. So I started watching it because he was watching it as a little boy. And watching Marino play and all that stuff, I got hooked. And it stuck with me. My family tried to get me to become a Giants fan, but I just wanted to follow my dad's footsteps.
Oh, you're killing me, man. You're killing me. No, but in all seriousness, he's a great guy. He's got a great channel. His link's in the description below. So at the end of this video, if you enjoyed what he talked about, go and check his channel out. He actually did a really good video on Patrick Graham, who we're going to be talking about. We'll talk a little bit about Patrick Graham. We'll talk a little bit about Shulplinski. If you know anything about him, I wanted to talk about Flores. Basically, the connection there is Joe Judge and Flores have a very similar resume. They coached with the Patriots. And it seems like they like the same coaches. And I want to get in a little draft talk, being that you guys pick right behind us, and it's possible you guys may trade up above us. We may want to trade with you guys. Guys might be scared somebody might want to jump up and take a quarterback. So, I want to get in that talk, see if there's any rumors there. But, I wanted to start with the coaching staff. I'll start with Flores. I wanted to get not just your take, but the fan base's take. Going back to last year when the Miami Dolphins brought this guy in, because I'm guessing some Dolphins fans were not for it because of his resume. He was inexperienced. He brought in basically the same coaching staff because we're taking all your guys. And so it was a very inexperienced staff, right, from the New England Patriots. And I wanted to get your take on what you thought of him when he came in and what most Dolphins fans thought of him when he came in and the coaching staff and what they thought after year one.
So when Flores came in, it was the whole fan base. It's kind of like the same thing when it came to the whole tanking situation. The whole fan base was completely split. There was half the fan base that liked Flores because there was that fan base that believed that Flores was the one calling the defensive plays during the playoffs. So they were like, okay, Flores is the reason why the Patriots went to the Super Bowl. Flores was the reason the Patriots won the Super Bowl. So there's a good chunk of fans that all right, cool, we just took their best defensive play caller. We're going to build off that. And then there's the other half that were like, he wasn't calling the play calls. It was Belichick pulling the strings. He hasn't done anything. He has no head coaching experience. What are we doing? A lot of people wanted the defensive coordinator from the Cowboys. A lot of people wanted the offensive coordinator from the Chiefs, who still, I'm surprised, doesn't have a head coaching job.
Eric Bieniemy. A very, very good candidate. I did a lot of research on him because we actually interviewed him.
Yeah, a lot of people wanted to steal Harbaugh away from the Ravens because if you guys remember, at this point, he had no contract. I think it was the beginning last offseason. He had no contract, and there was talks of him getting torn away and all that stuff. So it was very torn. But then the season started, and people were still like, oh, this is stupid. He's just a scapegoat. He's going to get fired, even though he signed a 5-year fully guaranteed contract. The man's not getting fired for at least minimum 3 years. But then after beating the Patriots, now all of a sudden people are kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
I put a little more trust in the man.
Yeah, because I'm from the outside looking in, and you guys, and this is what I'm trying to tell the Giants fan base right now. We got to give this guy 3 years. You got to give this guy at least 3 years. You got to give him a window here because the Giants are kind of in a similar situation to you guys where we're not a complete roster yet. We're still in rebuild mode. We're building through the draft, similar to you guys. And you got to give this guy some time. And this from the outside looking in. Going into the year, I thought the Dolphins were a one-win team. I thought you guys win maybe one, maybe two tops. And everybody thought you guys were tanking. You got rid of all your players. You got rid of everybody. And I thought you guys were tanking. So from the outside looking in, not watching you guys every week, I would have thought that Brian Flores did a pretty damn good job, especially being that you guys fought down the stretch. You beat the Patriots. You beat another good team, didn't you?
The Eagles.
You beat the Eagles, and yeah, and I'm sure Graham's a part of that. I want to get your take on Graham as well, obviously being that we took him from you guys. But yeah, I would have thought, most people would have thought that he did a good job, and I was surprised not just with the guys we got, but I was surprised with the turnover of the whole coaching staff. You guys fired everybody.
Yeah, seriously, there's some of the fires that I saw coming, like the offensive line coach. I can never pronounce his last name right, but it's like Dave DouglieDoWrong or something like that. He was on the Colts. The Dolphins' offensive line, yeah, there wasn't great pieces there, but it was just hot garbage. Like, Giant fans, you guys know what a hot garbage offensive line looks like. The Dolphins' offensive line was hot garbage. Chad O'Shea got fired, and I'm hearing that it was because there was huge butting of heads between him and the front office and Flores, and I'm hearing it had to do with playing Rosen or not. So I'm hearing, and also I heard that the offensive scheme was too complicated. So I'm hearing that's why he went. Now with Graham and the other guys, I don't know. Like, I did with Graham. It was more that situation had to have been agreed upon, because I don't know if you know this, but you're not allowed to jump from like one position similar, like a lateral jump,
lateral jump, yeah,
DC, unless you're given
permission.
Okay, yeah, you can go. So something happened. And I don't know if it's because, Flores being a defensive guy, that's the other thing. For Giant fans watching the Dolphins or looking back at Dolphins tape, the Dolphins defense, if you noticed from the first half of the season to the second half of the season, drastically different.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying like they're elite or like broke the top half of the league. They were giving up like 50 points a game the first 3 games.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we're in the games for the second half of the season. Brian Flores did not call defensive play calls. That's all Patrick Graham. So
see, that's and I had some Giants fans tell me that, and other Giants fans told me the other. Some Giants fans were like, well, it's kind of a promotion because he wasn't calling the defensive plays. But I never read that. I never read that anywhere, and I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people probably had that as a question, because there's not a lot of information out on it. So Graham was fully responsible for the play calling with the defense.
There was an article I found, because one of my subscribers, when I was talking about Patrick Graham leaving, said that. He was like, well, whatever. He wasn't calling play calls. 3 months ago, there's an article that came out where in a press conference, Brian Flores said he is not thinking about taking away the play calling from Graham yet. And this was at the point where we were giving up a lot of points. So he was calling the defensive plays. Now, I don't know if he needs some more experience in the coaching room with him, because Chad O'Shea's gone, and supposedly it's not official yet, but the sources are saying that Shane Gailey is going to be the new offensive coordinator. There's the experience there. And then he takes Josh Boyer, who was the secondaries coach, promotes him to DC because Graham went to you guys. And that secondary killed it the second half of the season for the Dolphins. And I'm hearing Josh Boyer is actually really good at finding that on the Nick Needhams, essentially, where you probably have no idea who Nick Needham is, but
I've heard that. Yeah, I know. He's just he played well for you guys, cornerback, right?
Yeah, the second half. Yeah. So all of a sudden, Josh Boyer is very good at finding those no-name guys and building something with them. So there was the talks that the reason that the Dolphins were like okay with Patrick Graham leaving was because they were already had that thought process of bringing Josh Boyer up. If Graham was still there, he would have still had a promotion of some point. But Patrick Graham's not a bad DC. Like, he's not a bad DC at all. And like I was saying, he made some stupid play calls. Like, don't get me wrong.
Right. Well, they all do.
Like the Steelers game before the half, when they gave up that huge touchdown run, and it was like 4th and like 13 or 4. Stupid to all-out blitz and have 3 corners drop back. And it was just a dumb play call. But in a whole, like, he's calling the play calls. The defense actually started to play better towards the second half of the season, and he was also doing what he can with nothing. Like, that's the thing. Like you were saying, a lot of people going into the season had the Dolphins barely winning 2 games. Me personally, being that I watched all of training camp and I'm a Dolphin YouTuber and I watch it. Once the trades happened, before the trades happened, I had them going 6 wins.
Right.
After the trades happened, I had them going 4 wins. Because I was like, this is the NFL, and it's the Dolphins. The Dolphins sometimes they play up to people's level. So I was like, I just feel like, but a lot of this has to do with the coaching staff getting the best out of nothing, because this team was a practice squad team.
Yeah.
Patrick Graham being able to get this defense to do something with nothing, and the Giants' defense is like above and beyond better than the Dolphins.
That's saying a lot because the Giants' defense is horrible.
Yeah. So, like, and that's where we eventually will talk about draft picks, but the Dolphins have no pass rush at all. Zero.
Yeah.
Like, nothing. And you guys picked up Wilkerson and really started helping you there, whereas the Dolphins had two great
What you mean Williams? Leonard Williams.
Williams,
yeah. The other Jet was Wilkerson.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. But, so what I wanted to talk about even more so about Patrick Graham is what, from what I read, and I read basically when he first got hired, when Brian Flores first got hired, he said things verbatim what Joe Judge is saying. And all Joe Judge is saying over and over again in his press conference, in interviews, he is saying that he wants to be unpredictable. He wants the element of surprise. He wants to be able to adjust and take advantage of opponents' deficiencies. That's all I've heard, and I read the same exact things from Brian Flores when he came on as your coach last year. And he said that was what he liked about Patrick Graham, because Patrick Graham shifts the defense. Sometimes you're in a 3-4, sometimes you're in a 4-3, sometimes you're in a 4-6. I read that he runs a lot of the 85 Bears defense. He runs a lot of the 4-6, so I thought that was incredibly interesting. And how did that work in terms of in-game adjustments, things like that? Did you notice that the defense came out with a lot of different formations, even half to half or game to game?
Yeah, 100%. There was one formation that I loved that they ran. It was called the roaming defense, and where essentially one of our defensive linemen would have his hand down, and the other linebackers and defensive linemen would just be standing up, walking around. So the offensive line doesn't know who to block and who not to block. So that I love that defense because it really messed with you. But the fact that the Dolphins had no pass rush, I couldn't really get a good grasp on, like, if this defense was working,
right?
Like, if we had, because the secondary was doing its thing, a lot of time. But we all know if you have no pass rush, secondary is literally on an island trying to cover a man who can run around for 5 minutes because the quarterback holds all the time. But when it comes to, like you were saying, with Joe Judge and Brian Flores, I think it has to do with the whole Belichick and the whole Patriot mindset of keeping that stuff tight to your chest. Because to this day, I have no idea what they're doing with Josh Rosen. He has come out and said things like, "Oh, we got to speed up the practice to get him going," but we don't know. So you expect that a lot with your head coach, because the Patriots don't like telling anyone anything, especially when it comes to injury report, when it comes to who's starting, who's not starting, the type of defense they run. The Miami Dolphins didn't know what type of defense they were running until the third preseason game. Like, us as fans, we had no idea what defense.
Yeah,
they were showing nothing.
Well, that's what Joe Judge said. He basically, paraphrasing a bit, but he basically said we're gonna have a different defense, week to week. You're not gonna know. So I think that's good. I like the element of surprise. I like the fact that you're kind of like a chameleon on both sides of the football. The other thing I wanted to ask you, again, I don't know much about your team, but I do think, from everything I read, Brian Flores, Joe Judge, very similar mindsets. What type of offense did you guys run? And I know you guys don't have the talent that even we have on offense. We, being that we have a Barkley, but because all Joe Judge has said on both sides of the ball. Now, he hasn't talked in intricate detail about the offense, but on both sides of the ball, he has said he wants to be aggressive. So it sounds to me like he's going to want an attack defense, blitzing, things of that nature. And it sounds to me like he's going to want to take some shots down the field. Was that similar with you guys?
A lot of what the offense would do, Brian Flores wanted to bring back that old, punch you in the face run offense.
And we've heard that too with Judge, which I love hearing.
Yeah, and to the point where we drafted a fullback in Chandler Cox in the 6th round, which I loved. It was a great addition. It just didn't work because you go down by 2 touchdowns, you go down by 3 touchdowns, you can't run the ball anymore.
Right.
So it kind of changes what you're going to do. But when watching it, use Preston Williams and use Devontae Parker to the extreme, where you would just have them go and you'd have Fitz just 50-50 ball it up to him. And you would have a lot of intricate go routes with the tall receivers, but then a lot of underneath routes. And there was a lot of times, like you were saying, it would be a lot of 4 wide receiver sets. They would take Gesicki. They would put him out at wide receiver. A lot of movement, a lot of pre-snap shifts, a lot of like you're saying, a lot of stuff to mess with the opponent's head on offense and defense, and that's what you're trying to do. Is on defense, we were trying to make the quarterback, okay, well, Eric Rowe is a corner, but wait, he's now playing safety, but he's at the line of scrimmage, and then the quarterback's going to want to tell them, oh, this is the mic, but then all of a sudden he's going to drop back into coverage, and then just mess with you. And same thing with offense. You'd have Mike Gesicki out there, wide receiver, and against the Jets, Mike Gesicki was eating on them because
I remember watching that game.
A slot corner on him, and he was just Fitz would just throw the ball up to him, and Gesicki with his huge frame would just snatch it out of the air. So expect that a lot, because Joe Judge was, I think, the Patriots special teams coach.
Yeah, special teams and wide receivers coach this year.
Brian Flores started as a scout for 2 years with the Patriots, went to special teams, then went to, I think, linebackers. He did also some offense, and then he ended up defense.
Yes.
This is the type of coach you want, because take it from a Dolphin fan who had Adam Gase, who...
Oh, God, he's bad.
Right? Was straight offensive-minded coach. When the defense is on the field, he's on the bench.
And the same thing with the Giants. We had Pat Shurmur, offensive coordinator. He's strictly an offensive guy. And that is what everybody has harped about with Judge, that the special teams background is actually a plus because of that. He gets experience on offense and defense, not to mention when you're in that role, you got to work with the 47th, 48th, 49th guys on the roster, and you got to get the most out of guys with limited talent.
Special teams is huge, huge when it comes to football. And you'll notice that Brian Flores doesn't leave the sideline. That man's always there. He's always saying, good job to the offense, defense, and special teams coming off. He has Chad O'Shea calling offense, Patrick Graham calling defense. He has he is the head coach. And that's why, Harbaugh is doing so well with the Ravens, is because he's not one or the other. He is a head coach.
Yes.
You want to hire a head coach, not a defensive coordinator.
A CEO, a guy that oversees everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's the way you want it to be, because you don't want to put too much on the plate of your head coach, because Pat Shurmur is an offensive guy, so he's not effective. It was the same thing with Rex Ryan with the Jets. It worked out at first, but he was a defensive guy that didn't know anything about offense. I like the fact that he has a broad background for both coaches. And it sounds like, based on the conversation, even though you guys have turned over your complete coaching staff, that you are very encouraged by Brian Flores going forward.
I'm trying not to fall back into that whole, love at first sight when it comes to head coaches, because with Tony Sparano in 2008, he won the division, went to the playoffs.
Wildcat.
Everyone fell in love with him. Then nothing happened after that. Adam Gase comes in 2016. We clinched the playoffs week 15, which we haven't done in forever. After that, does nothing. So what I'm doing with Brian Flores is I'm loving what he's doing. He took nothing, won 5 games with it. Okay, I'll fall in love with you after next season, because if you can win me 8 games, which is you got to win 3 more games with more talent, then I think I'll put all my faith in you, all my trust in you. But as of right now, I love what he did, but baby steps. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not going to do what I did in the past.
Yeah, but I'm assuming you did last year. I didn't watch the channel last year, but last year I'm assuming you told your subscribers basically what I'm telling my subscribers. It's a new coach. He's young. He has a brand new coaching staff. We can't get on this guy after 1 year. We got to give this guy 3 to 5 years to really see what we got. And the other thing that I always tell my subscribers is, if we keep firing coaches after 2 years, who the hell is going to want to come here?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If you always got to think of it as a coach from the outside looking in. If you're a coach with a resume, why the hell are you going to go to a place where they fired 3 coaches in 5 years?
Exactly. You got to let them build something. And that's the thing. Everyone thought that the Miami Dolphins were tanking. What people don't, a lot of outside fans who aren't Dolphin fans never really realized is that the Dolphins, look at the Ndamukong Suh contract. $100 million for a defensive tackle. We've overpaid Ryan Tannehill. The man's killing it now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But back then, giving him $100 million kind of was a little stupid. Mike Wallace, Brandon Albert. We're signing
I go down the list with us, too. Olivier Vernon, Janoris
So
Jenkins.
what the Dolphins did was they were like, all right, cool. We're going to get rid of these fat and bloated contracts. We're going to tear this sucker down from his studs, and we're going to build a dynasty. We're going to build through the draft, and we're going to do this thing right. 14 draft picks, $125 million in cap space. They're doing it right. Yes, it sucked to lose players, but if you're not going to build in and take on the scheme, if you're not going to trust the head coach, you're out, a.k.a. Mika Fitzpatrick.
Right.
He cried. all right. Well,
Goodbye.
they sat down with
Yeah.
him. They sat down with him. They said, we want to keep you. He said, no, no, no. Fine, we'll put Eric Rowe in your position, and Eric Rowe just got a contract extension. So it's like,
Wow. Yeah. No, it sounds like we're in very similar situations because that's another thing. And you guys have more cap space than we do, 125 million. But it sounds like you probably have a similar mindset to me when it comes to free agency. Giants have about $80 million to spend. They're about 70 to 80. And all Giants fans want them to go, not all. A lot of Giants fans want them to go out and spend. They want them to get 2 or 3 huge guys. And I said, we got to learn from history, guys. 2016, we went out there, we signed Janoris Jenkins, we signed Olivier Vernon, and we signed Snacks Harrison. And it was great for 1 year. We make the playoffs, we go 11-5, and then after that, our cap space is shot, and we're done. And my mindset is we should do what a team in your division did last year, the Buffalo Bills. I thought they did a great job in free agency. They spread the money out. They addressed a lot of needs, but they didn't make big commitments. There was 1, 2-year contracts, and you saw what the Bills did. So that's my mindset with the Giants. Maybe one big guy. Maybe you get an Ngakoue or a Conklin, but I don't want to get 3 huge names. I'd rather spread it out and get short-term deals so you could build through the draft.
100%. That's what I want the Dolphins to do. Like you're saying, 1 or 2 big names. Like for me as a Dolphin fan, bring in Scherf. Shore up that offensive line, maybe even go for a Byron Jones, just in case Xavier Howard gets injured again, and we have Nick Needham take, Bobby McCain, put him back at slot corner, and then get a lot of B guys.
Right.
Those B guys are going to be fighting to prove that they are A guys. That's where you get the money from. You bang for your buck, and then through the draft. Dolphins are going to be drafting 14 people. They're going to be using some of those picks to move up, go next year. There's no way they're taking 14 people, so this is the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, I like that. We share the same mindset. And when you look at the best teams in the league, and I did a video on it, the Steelers never spend in free agency.
Nope.
The Patriots sparing, once in a while they'll splurge on one guy, but for the most part, they don't spend a lot. The Ravens don't spend a lot. The Chiefs don't spend a lot. If you look at the best teams, they don't do what the Dolphins and Giants did. They don't, and the Jets last year, they spend it on the Mosley, not $17 million a year. They give Le'Veon Bell 13 or 14 a year. They give their slot wide receiver there, Crowder, $10 million a year. So I want the Giants to stay away from that. That's just my personal opinion. One guy, you want to get one big guy, a Conklin, a Ngakoue, whatever it may be, fine, but I want you to spread out the rest. So that's interesting. I wasn't even going to talk about that, but you started talking about free agency, and we're in similar situations. And now, do you know anything about this guy, Shulplinski? I did a little research on him, who's the new Giants quarterback coach. I wanted to talk briefly about him if you know much about him. I was encouraged by some of the things that I read about him. Jacoby Brissett came out, said that he was unbelievable in terms of teaching him the playbook. Jimmy Garoppolo said the same thing when he was with the New England Patriots. But I was curious to see if you knew anything about the guy.
He's a smart guy. He had a connection with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it seems like what the Dolphins are doing is trying to build that connection with Ryan Fitzpatrick. We'll talk about that when we get to the draft discussion. But he's a smart guy. The Dolphins wanted to promote him, but it's another situation that a lot of what's happening is Brian Flores is like, you could stay if you want to, but if you don't, I'm not going to beg you. He's that type of guy. So I think that's why a lot of people are moving. But when it comes to this guy, I don't know as much probably as you do. Being that he was an assistant to the quarterback's coach.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done much research on an assistant quarterback coach,
Yeah, but he's a smart guy. It's a good pickup by you guys. It's a really good pickup by you guys.
Yeah, I mean, you got to like the fact that, and I'm sure you did too last year, picking up a lot of ex-Patriot guys. Who better? And I know Patriot coaches historically don't have the best resume when they leave Bill Belichick, but it seems like these guys are building the team the right way, and I think it's exciting. And I'm curious to see if Miami Dolphin fans felt the same way, to have a young staff, to have a young coach, young guys coming in. It's just something refreshing and different. And like you said, it makes me feel like rather than trying to be mediocre and try to get by, they're trying to build a dynasty. And to me, that's encouraging. I'd rather swing for the fences.
Yeah, as a fan base, like us with our organizations, even though you guys have won a Super Bowl way sooner than the Dolphins have, last time we've been to one was '84. You get tired of the 8-8, 7-9s, 9-7s. You're tired of it. You want to have that constant Patriot feel of, like, these Patriot fans now are starting to cry over this season and starting to get upset with their team. Like, You guys haven't had a losing season in like 15 years. I had a friend who he was the Patriot fan. He was like, "Oh God, this season sucked." They went 11-5, won the division, and went to the playoffs. And he said this season sucked. I wanted to punch him. Like I would love that. Like
yeah, so would I. And I won a Super Bowl in 2012, but since then we've had 1 year, and everything else has been absolutely dreadful. Yeah, man, Patriot fans are spoiled. They're kind of like Yankee fans, but we don't got to get into that, being that we're not.
That's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, but yeah, so all right, so you knew that he was a bright mind, and you think it's a good hire for the Giants there with Shulplinski. And then yeah, obviously I want to talk a little bit about the draft, being that you guys are picking 5th, we're picking 4th, and there are some rumors that I think you guys are probably interested in a quarterback. We'll see if you take him there, if you take him later in the draft. But maybe a team wants to jump you, or maybe you want to jump us or trade with us to assure that you get the quarterback of your liking. Have there been any rumors to that? Are you guys very interested in a quarterback from what you've heard? Are you potentially interested or scared that a team might move up and grab a quarterback? Things along that nature.
So a lot of that predicates on, because I hear everything that you've probably read, heard, all that stuff, because it's all over. I tell my subscribers that this offseason is essentially all over the networks. It's going to be the Miami Dolphins offseason. You got 3 first-round picks. You got 6 picks in the first 3 rounds, cap space, everything. So everyone wants to know, speculate what the Dolphins are doing, because we all know Joe Burrow's going to Cincinnati. Chase Young most likely is going to the Redskins, and then it comes down to everyone's saying the draft starts at 3 with the Lions, then Giants, Dolphins. A lot of it predicates on what Tua's physical is at the combine. If they give the green light, if they say he's wholeheartedly good to go, with the Giants and the Lions, there's going to be a bidding war to try to jump in front of the Dolphins to take him. Expect the Raiders, expect the Chargers, expect this team that has a quarterback maybe in place, but needs that quarterback for the future because they'll sit Tua for a year. So with the Giants especially, there's going to be a lot of teams that will probably offer you guys a lot to jump up from the teens to right in front of the Dolphins to try to take Tua. But the funny thing is, a lot of people want to say the whole tank for Tua. Nobody in the Dolphins organization has ever said they were tanking, nor did they say they want Tua. That is a lot of the media and the outside sources saying that.
Right.
Don't be surprised if the Miami Dolphins at 5, say Tua's there at 5, they don't take him. Don't be surprised if the Dolphins are just going to build through the trenches, ride with Fitz for 1 more year, and then address quarterback either in the 2nd round of this year or try to go for Trevor Lawrence, because they have 2 first-round picks next year that they could use to trade up to get a quarterback.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. And then you talked about Fitz. From what I read, Fitz might be retiring. Is there any news on that?
I haven't heard anything yet. He's probably going back, eating some more cake, and enjoying his time in the off season. But I haven't heard anything yet. What I'm hearing is a lot of what the Dolphins are doing is for him, because Chan Gailey was with him with the Jets. The new quarterbacks coach that we brought in was with him and worked with him. So I'm hearing a lot of it is that, but also I'm hearing it has to do a lot with leadership. And Flores just wants some more veteran leadership in the coaching staff. But I don't know. I haven't heard anything yet. But I wouldn't be surprised because he's guaranteed at least $5 million next year.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I saw that. Because I was actually interested because I didn't know his contract details, and people were asking me who's the ideal guy to bring in as a backup for Daniel Jones, and I said Ryan Fitzpatrick. This guy's been around the league forever. He's not going to be a threat to take his job, and he could show him the ropes. But I didn't. And then I saw he had another year on his contract with you guys. Yeah. But he actually played pretty well for you guys this year, Ryan Fitzpatrick. But yeah, so seems as if you guys potentially could be taking a quarterback, but you wouldn't be shocked if you you take an offensive lineman there or whoever it may be. One guy I was really impressed with was Isaiah Simmons last night, and a lot of Giants fans are in on that guy.
Oh yeah, a lot of Dolphin fans want him too.
Yeah,
I was checking him out. I was checking him out during the playoff games that they played, and how I think it was against Ohio State. He caught up to the running back. It was just he was a good 10, 15 yards from him, and just started beelining it up towards him. And a lot of my subscribers kept telling me, Doug, check out Isaiah Simmons. You're going to have to look at him. Because on my channel, I do prospects videos, and I break down each position. And he's the guy I got to check out, but I don't even know what position to put him at.
Yeah.
He can play safety, linebacker, corner.
But that's perfect for both our teams. Because both our teams want unpredictability. And that's what's great about him. That when I was watching the Joe Judge interview, that's all I thought about. Because he's saying unpredictability. I don't know what we're going to run. We might run 3-4 foot. I'm like, Isaiah Simmons.
Yep.
Isaiah Simmons can play middle linebacker, outside linebacker, safety, corner. He does it all. So I think he's a guy that potentially, but like you guys, we do need to build that offensive line. It's going to be interesting to see what we decide. I think free agent's going to really decide what both of us do early on in the draft. If we address the offensive line of free agency, you address the offensive line of free agency, you're probably going somewhere else with that early pick. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the draft. And yeah, man, it is so. When I looked at your team, I was like, I got to get Doug on the channel because it's such a similar. I mean, we have Joe Judge and Brian Flores could be like twins when it comes to coaching backgrounds. And coaching styles and mindset. So I thought it was a really interesting, it would have been a great interview to have you on. And I think my subscribers are really going to appreciate this, the knowledge that you brought about your team and what Brian Flores brought to the Dolphins last year and what hopefully Joe Judge could bring to the Giants. But, yeah, man, I just want to say once again, whoever stuck around for the 30 minutes and 19 seconds, if you have not done so, go into that description and please subscribe to Doug. He's got a great channel over there. He's a great guy. I'm looking forward to working with him. We might do some draft stuff.
Definitely.
In the off season, whether it's a mock draft, whatever it may be. But yeah, man, I just want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you, for everything you did for Giants fans.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure, and yeah, we'll definitely get some mock drafts going, do a bunch of stuff together. I really do appreciate being on. Thank you.
You got it, man, and yeah, as always, cheers.